right, here
I
we
could have
hit that button.
No. Takes a special kind of person. Here we go. Welcome to Analog Jones in the Temple of Film. I'm Steve.
I'm Chris.
And we're a VHS podcast that looks at the box art trailers behind the scenes. But this week, it's just not your typical three idiots talking about a VHS. We've got some special guests talking about a new comic book. And so we've got Jonathan and Paul London. Guys, how are you doing?
Doing good. How are you doing, Paul?
I'm 4 idiots now.
I was about to say,
like,
you got 4 idiots on this show right now, dude.
Three. No. Typically, we have 3 idiots.
Now you went up an idiot.
Now we have 4.
Surprise!
I'm happy to be here with you guys talking fun stuff. I should be hanging out in this realm with you guys more often. Just a little banter we've had before we start recording.
Paul, you do. You have a Geekscape show.
Yeah, but I'm seated in my chair. I don't get up from my chair for anything. I sit in my chair. If you run off, I'll shoot you in the back.
Steven Seagal podcasting method. You got it down.
That's right.
Steven Seagal's podcasting method. He's not sitting in a chair. He is the chair.
Well, I can't stand up from the chair because I'm not wearing pants.
Yeah.
I got to roll out the door.
I just love the tube attached and everything. So it'll
1 minute into this thing, and I've already heard that Chris doesn't have pants. I mean, just one podcast. Wear some pants.
Chris, the ankle monitor is not pants.
It keeps your ankle warm. Pants.
Like that thing from Running Man around their neck, but it's around it.
All right. Before we start
talking
about
which, there's something like that in this movie. But I'll let Steven do his thing. I'll let Steven do his thing.
But it's sexy.
Before we announce what we're watching, just in case you can't read, which I know most of you can't, that's cool. But you guys want to talk about this little comic book that you got coming out that you're starting a Kickstarter for?
It's regular size.
Yeah, it's regular size. It's actually like old school. It's 26 pages of comic book action.
I thought it was the size of a like a Post-it.
We have that size too. We have wallet size, poster size. Bedroom size.
You can sneak it into a classroom, sneak it into a church, and read it.
Yeah.
No,
just with a magnifying glass.
Yeah. I wanted to do a deal with Cracker Jacks where it just goes in the boxes. Yeah. Paul and Hear the Prophecy is a 26-page of comic action first issue in a series called Paul and Hear the Prophecy. I wrote it as a love letter to this man right here, my brother Paul, where he, as himself, gets transported to a fantasy world of sword and sorcery and has to help them free a kingdom from an evil wizard. It's very Galaxy Quest, Three Amigos, that kind of thing. Army of Darkness, lots of He-Man. I actually took He-Man scripts and adapted them into some of the storylines you're going to get because Machinima was going to hire me to do a He-Man series back in the day, but they lost their sponsor because it was Dr. Pepper 10. But I'd already outlined a bunch of stuff just because if you put an idea in my head, I just run with it and I start writing freehand. Some of that stuff's in the Hear the Prophecy now. So we'll see. I don't know. I love it. And Paul wrote it with me because I'll write the outlines. I'll send them to him. He won't read them. Then I'll write the script. I'll send it to him. He won't read them. And then he goes because he's too busy. He's wrestling and stuff like that. But then the artwork I'll send to him. He digs the artwork and then the letterer comes in and letters it. And then Paul does like a Stan Lee draft where he goes through the lettered issue and he does adjustments on like what should be more wrestling. And he's not just doing the wrestling stuff either. He's giving adjustments and like suggestions for the other characters. And the book gets better. The book, I think, gets funnier. And, back in the day, Stan Lee would do the Marvel method where he'd get a bunch of artists and to get them writing and making comics fast, he would give them outlines and they would do all the blocking and the breakdown into boxes and things like that. And then he would come back and do the scripting. And I feel like Paul and I are doing a Marvel method where I'll make the comic and then he'll come in with a draft and with suggestions and the book gets Paul Lundis-sized and like he just like, you know what I mean? Like he squeezes out the best part of the toothpaste out of the tube and it just works. And I'm like, oh dude, all these lines got better and a couple of these jokes got funnier. He's not just making sure my wrestling lingo is up to par. Like he's actually making the book really a lot more fun. So we share that writing credit for sure.
All right, so you're the talent, Paul. Like
he's mine, y'all can't have him. He's my brother. I'm the butt of most jokes in life.
Me too.
But in this comic,
Yeah.
for sure, our stepmom was like, Jonathan, you're really going hard on your brother. I was like, just wait. You got to give the character a place to go. You know, like Ash Williams is working at S Smart. You've got Jack Burton, and he's like lying to everybody with his big rig truck. You know, the three amigos are kind of has-beens.
You give
And
them
John
the Galaxy,
Rambo is
the
just
Galaxy,
trying to find somewhere to eat and hope.
the Galaxy Quest
What?
guys are doing like conventions they hate being at. Like, you got to give these characters places to go.
You got to wait till issue 64, and then
That's
you're
right.
finally competent.
He gets a win in issue 2.
Good.
Yeah.
He gets, even if it's accidental, he gets a win. It's not accidental, but he gets a win in issue 2.
Like Jar Jar.
Just wait.
Like Jar Jar.
He's getting his Paul will get his day in the sun in the Hero of the Prophecy series. But first we got to get this issue 1 kickstarted, and that means herooftheprophecy.com. So that's the plug. Anything you want to add,
There
Paul?
will be, yeah, I mean, well, no, I just love listening to you put it much better than I have in my recent interviews. But I did say also the same thing in terms of Three Amigos, Galaxy Quest, Army of Darkness is a great one as well. The Good Journey, we certainly lifted from He-Man. That's something that's kind of stayed with us throughout our life. But yeah, anytime you put the fish out of water kind of gimmick in a story, I think it's relatable. I think everybody has some situation where they're in that, way over their heads kind of scenario, and it's fun. I don't know. I think my only thing was I should have probably looked a little fatter and like out of shape. I'm in better shape in the comic than I ever was in real life.
No, that's not true, dude. That is not true. We are recording this around the Royal Rumble, and Paul has a top 5 at least Royal Rumble elimination.
Oh yeah,
the feats of athleticism, things that I've seen my brother do, are incredible, and you don't do that with some Steven Seagal physique. All right, pal. So lay off it. Don't be like that,
no,
man.
I've been very lucky. I've been very lucky. I was really fortunate to have 2 brothers who live with me and through me every day and everything that I do. So any of the death-defying stuff that I might have should have been paralyzed or crippled with, I'd like to think that my brother Daniel was giving me wings in those moments, or something along those lines.
Dude, remember
And
when we used to take the trampoline and put it between the pool, the house and the pool, and jump from the house to the trampoline into the pool?
Yeah, I've done that.
It's probably the stupidest thing we could have done.
No, the dumbest thing was when
the neighbor like ratted on us.
Or like at one point it got so boring, cool jumping out of the tree, that I was like, well, let's jump off the house onto the trampoline, and I started looking for an obstacle, and so I started jumping over what appeared to just be like a jump rope, right? But it was the power lines, and so there was jumping kind of over the power line onto the my dad. That's what ended that trampoline thing.
It's gone. It's done. They're not doing the trampoline over power lines thing. You end up like a Wile E. Coyote character.
And I also had this racist Hulk Hogan pillow. It was a wrestling buddy doll. It wasn't racist at the time, but it turned racist. And I would be out on my trampoline wrestling myself if my brother was, John was inside reading comics or something. And I was like,
always reading comics, playing my Genesis.
And so our neighbors, I think they thought that I had special needs because they would look out their window probably, and I was on my trampoline hitting myself with actually, I'll reenact it.
Yo, Paul, hold up.
Yeah.
I have the Wrestle Buddy. It's in my storage unit, dude.
I have it right here.
I have it. What's the Wrestle Buddy I have in my storage unit? I have a Wrestle Buddy in my storage unit.
I think we have double Terry action now, because when I left one of my when I lived my roommate during the pandemic, like he left and we left where we lived because the owner had to move in, whatever. So he was like, I'm just leaving with it. I was like, you're gonna leave then? You left Terry? And so
are you leaving Holster?
Yeah. But yeah, so I was on this trampoline and I would be wrestling myself. So I'd be like,
pantomiming.
Yeah, so people probably thought they were like, oh my God, that poor kid. Like, there's no friends. And
This kid is spazzing out.
Might have some sort of violent Tourette's. I'm not sure. And so,
Half
but,
of
you
this is
know.
cancelable. I think. I think half this conversation is cancelable at this point.
No, what? Come
All right.
on.
I
We
just
all
said,
have
I don't
needs,
think
dude.
I'm supposed to say spaz. I don't think I'm supposed to say that.
Spaz?
Yeah, I don't think you're supposed to say
Spaz?
that. I think
Who
I think
cares?
that went on a list. The spastic.
Well, I didn't get the update.
Chris, do we have permission to use that word?
You do now. It's
Okay.
fine.
All right,
I
cool.
guess.
Oh, you want to see a shirt I got last night?
I think 3 of us have ADD on this.
Yeah, let's just make it. Let's just make it 4. Let's make it 4. I don't want to speak for Steven, but let's make it 4. Yo,
Woo!
that shirt's fucking awesome. Paul's
The
holding up
Ugandan giant.
Paul's holding up a Kamala 2024 shirt, but it's not a political shirt. It's from Kamala, the wrestler,
Yes.
the Ugandan giant. Paul, that shirt's amazing, actually.
And
Yo,
and the
that
zero from 2024, the zero in it is his face.
That shirt's incredible. How much was that shirt?
Buddy Bishop gave it to me last night.
Yo, I want
Retails
that.
for $125.
Yo,
though.
That shirt is so good. That shirt is so good.
I know when
Yeah,
he
that's
first
amazing.
put it out, when he first handed it to me, I was like, "No, I don't do." Oh, wait. Oh, awesome! I was
Dude,
like, I don't do political-
That shirt
I
is
don't do political
incredible.
bullshit.
That shirt is incredible. Oh my
I
God.
loved Kamala, the Ugandan giant, and Harvey Whippleman is a friend of mine.
That
He was
shirt's
the manager.
incredible.
Yeah,
I
The
that's
love
an
Brooklyn
awesome
Brawler, Kim Chi. Anyways, I think I'm the only one here who hasn't seen what we're supposed to talk about.
That's fine. I mean, people
But
can't
I
read.
know
So,
the store. I knew the store.
all right, Chris.
I
if
read.
they can't read, what did we watch?
We have watched 1988's Hell Comes to Frogtown.
All right. So I'm assuming all of us have seen this before we watched it for this, except Paul, who's just gonna go all on memory.
Guys, I watched it again.
Yeah, I've seen this a few
Yeah.
times, but every time I watch it, I feel like it's a new watch. I don't know if I like black out at parts. And I was like, I don't remember that.
It had some challenging moments.
Like what?
It had some challenging stretches, but I'll tell you what, like I have not seen this since I was probably in high school and since I was in a VHS era myself.
Yeah.
Like
So
I was thinking about the last time I owned a VCR and it was probably 10, 15 years ago. And it sucks.
Do you want
because-
one?
Yes, I do. Because I have so many VHS.
You pay for shipping because that shit sucks.
Yo,
and
Chris, I'll
send
pay
you
for
one.
shipping, but I have basically like in my storage unit, I have a couple boxes of classic VHSs. One of them is Death Run to Istanbul, which isn't, you can't find that crap. It was like $150 on eBay last time we checked on another podcast. Death Run to Istanbul is a piece of shit and I love it. But I hadn't seen this movie probably in 20 years, and watching it again, like there's a sequence I call Fury Toad because it's basically the plot of Fury Road and they're trying to rescue these women and get them out of Frogtown like in Fury Road, but the person chasing them is an evil frog. And so I was like, yo, Fury Road totally ripped off this movie.
It looks a whole lot
This
like
is Fury Toad, dude. It's a bunch of like women that are being kept just for like reproduction, being like ferried away and like rescued by the protagonist, and they're hiding in a like post-apocalyptic vehicle. Bro, that's Fury Road.
Yeah, but
Fury Road took this.
They ripped off Mad Max to make this.
You stop this, all right?
And then he
Stop
took
I think
their
part of
idea
it
to
also
make Fury
ripped off
Road.
Alien
No, I'm
Seed.
not giving multiple Oscar winner and genius George Miller any more credit than he's already gotten.
It's just
Fury
really
Road was the payback for being lifted from this movie. Hell Comes to Frogtown.
So what you're saying about 12, 14 years ago, George Miller was sitting on his couch, which may or may not have been Steven Seagal. We don't know. And then he was like, he put in this VHS, just like I did. And he's like, I got it. I got the next Oscar winner.
I can take this sequence and make an entire movie out of it.
Yeah, he's like, my cars look very similar to this car.
Yeah, that's why you got
this.
Fury Toad. There's a sequence called that I call Fury Toad in this movie.
100%. I think we nailed it. Now, what we do in this show, if you're looking at this VHS, you look at this poster. I'm trying here to steer these ADHD kids right back into this movie.
Thanks, Steven.
Would you rent this? Honestly, if you were at a video store.
I did.
So you
yes.
actually did. Okay.
Remember, Paul, when I worked at Blockbuster?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, in high school I worked
Yeah.
at Blockbuster, and I would come home with this kind of stuff. I loved this stuff.
Yeah, what pisses me off is I don't think this and They Live were ever available at the video store I had. I mean, the video store I had every B movie you can think about, but apparently Rowdy Piper off limits because I don't remember this at all as a kid. 100%. If I'd have saw him on the cover, this would have been rented.
I was 3, so I don't think I would have rented this. But
We
now as an adult, it's
can you
pretty
pull the
rad looking.
cover up closer to the?
Yeah.
I mean, that cover alone, that's so cool. I would have totally. I think even Rob Zombie ripped off the cover of that for one of his films. Like,
And
Yeah,
let's be clear, you're not renting this
Devil's
movie.
Rejects.
This is a Skinamax movie.
No, it is not. There is
I-
about 2 minutes of boobs in the entire movie.
Right. But that is enough to get Skinamax because we would just stay up all night with the Skinamax for that 2
That's
minutes
true.
of boob, and you would sit through like the Emmanuel series and some of the worst crap ever, or
I
like,
remember that.
you know, and you're
Emmanuel
like,
in space, baby.
and you're like, okay, I guess we got those 2 minutes, so it was worth it. We can go to sleep now because we got class in 2 hours. You know, like the kids would do that. So no, this is for sure a Skinamax movie.
Well, I was a little disappointed that the nudity in this, like the tape wasn't screwed up. Someone wasn't pausing this, having themselves a good time.
Wasn't scrambled.
It wasn't scrambled at all. So who knows
Is
who
there a
owns
frog
this one?
scene.
Can I just say how awesome this movie is at getting right to the point? Like it starts off and you have like a pretty cool action sequence in like a post-apocalyptic town.
Dude, I love that opening sequence.
Dude
It's like,
gets blasted, and then it has a tagline where a guy just says, "Ribbit." And then these women swoop in, grab Roddy Piper. He wakes up with this explosive cod piece on that keeps him from having sex. Is like, hey, you're one of the only potent men left on the planet. It's been taken over by radioactive frogs. We have a bunch of women that are being kept captive by them. We need you to go in there and rescue them and rebreed the human race. And that's the plot. Boom.
Yeah.
5 minutes in, you're done.
It's
time to
Fury Road. You're
time
right.
to kick some
Plot
ass.
right in the minute, and then just a lot of driving.
A lot of
cool
driving.
cars. I showed
Wow.
up to Fury Road 2 minutes late with a friend. I was like, dude, you got to get there on time. It was my 4th watch. He's like, I'll be fine.
Fury
And
Toad.
then he goes, where was the plot? And I was like, yeah, it was in that first 2 minutes, man.
Yeah.
Driving.
And then even more amazing, I'm just stunned because when I watched it this time, I realized I go, wait a minute. Our hero, they started this movie off telling us that our hero is a rapist because they're like, that guy's like, you sexually assaulted my daughter. And then this woman comes in, she goes, no, it's good. She dropped the charges because she's pregnant. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? I've seen this. I think this is probably my 3rd or 4th time. This is the first time that I picked that up. And I'm like,
I didn't pick that up.
What
It's
does
the
it- what does
first
it
time
say
I
about
picked
you,
up his last
Steven?
name is Hell.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't realize he's Hell that comes to Frogtown.
Sam Hell.
Yeah, I was like,
Sam Hill.
I was just sitting there
Sam
full
Hain.
of laundry.
Sam
I was like,
Hain.
Sam Hell.
Dude. So I thought that I was almost sleeping through most of this movie, and it seems I've picked up more details than most of you individuals. I'm if nothing but if not a cinema fan. I'm a fan
Yeah,
of cinema.
You're an astute
I
watcher,
love
and
this
we're
shit.
idiots.
Guys, this movie is really bad. It's really bad.
no,
You shut your mouth.
yeah.
This movie rules, dude.
This is somewhat a reptile masterpiece. Okay.
Let's
I don't
keep
know
in
what
mind,
you're
this,
talking about.
I'm not gonna say that this movie has some amazing moments, and I love the ending in Vasquez Rocks. I think that shit is hilarious, but there are long stretches of this movie. Shit ain't happening. Like
Well,
lots of it, and
It
I'm
had
just
a
like,
budget of 1.5 million. I think most of that was probably spent on catering and maybe Rowdy Piper.
maybe
I don't-
because it wasn't spent on these frog suits, dude. These
Well, you
frog
drive-
suits.
That's okay. Those practical effects at the time. Practical
Yeah.
always trump special effects, in my opinion.
And half of this makes me think of like a Ministry music video. So I'm pretty amped on this entire thing. It's like Hardware and all
Mhm.
that.
Yeah,
I like
Hardware would be
Hardware's
cool.
great. I would rather watch. Why don't we watch Hardware? I'm kidding.
We already watched Hardware. And the director's apparently a pile of shit, but
Well,
Okay.
He's the
isn't
warlock.
everyone
Yeah, we
everyone
found-
from the 80s nowadays?
Neil Gaiman, you know, we're losing people left and right here.
So, Paul, you know what was awesome about the opening scene of this movie where he gets his mission? Immediately, you notice the statuesque blonde, and you're like, "Holy crap! Sandal Bergman's in this movie, and she was the blonde in Conan the Barbarian,
Mhm.
and she's the
Oh, wow.
badass. And I went down a deep dive on Sandal Bergman because she's beautiful, and she's the other lead in this movie. And she started out as a dancer. She's mainly had a career as a lead dancer for like Bob Fosse, like All That Jazz and stuff like that.
Oh,
Her
wow.
career mainly was as a dancer, but every now and then she show up with some lines and do a movie. She's stunning, and she's the person who's the romantic interest who also has to bring him to breed a bunch of women to comedic effect here in this Frogtown.
She's in She.
Mhm.
I just watched that not too long ago. That movie is very strange,
Yeah,
but very good.
yeah.
She's also in Red Sonja, I think,
Yep.
too.
She is in Red Sonja.
That's what I
Two
was
different
thinking.
characters. Even though
Yeah.
Arnold is in Red Sonja, they don't share. She's not the same character in Red Sonja as she is in Conan.
Sliders as
All
lead
right.
female dancer. I don't
Yeah,
I don't look people up. I don't know if you know that. I try to keep
Silk
just the movie
Stocking.
to the movie.
she
Yeah.
was in some of the softcore silk stocking type stuff, and
Yeah. I like
yeah,
that.
She's
so-
in Silk Stockings, actually.
and I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
guys, they just did a
So
screening
Bob.
down at the
Bob
at the.
Epstein.
Paul, have you ever seen a movie at the Frida Cinema in Santa Ana? They have like a lot of indie movies there, and it's kind of like an art house.
I love the Frida. I go to the
They
Frida
just-
all the time.
They just did Conan the Barbarian, and Sandal Bergman was there,
Oh,
and I was jealous.
They also had Kroll recently, and I missed out
Yeah,
on that. And I was
Guys,
sad.
they did a fantasy month.
that
Yeah.
sounds tight.
Shit.
That's awesome.
We need to bring that up to LA.
Frida's a cool
mean,
theater.
Anytime you can get a bunch of fantasy films in a movie theater, you're just going to pack it with nerds. It's going to be great.
Are we just
Mhm.
Yeah,
plowing
Bronx
through your
Boys,
format,
yeah.
Steven?
Oh,
Are we
yeah.
just-
The format's
are we just-
destroyed.
we're
But
just
I tell
destroying
you
your
what we're
format.
going to do. I tell you
Okay.
what we're going to do. We'll go through these quick facts real quick, as fast as I possibly can, and then we'll watch the trailer, and then we'll blast right through this movie.
Sorry,
So-
sir.
Quick facts. We got directed by Donald G. Jackson and R.J. Kinzer. Apparently, Donald Jackson wrote this film and then was kicked out because the budget ballooned a little too much. So they like replace him with the producer. And apparently, Donald Jackson also hated Rowdy Piper. And saw an interview on that. Yeah.
Really?
So,
Did you
yeah,
read for it?
So the producer wanted Rowdy Piper, and they brought him in, did the testing and everything. But Ronald Jackson wanted Daniel Stearns, the Wet Bandits,
Mhm.
and
Daniel Stern.
yeah, and Daniel Stern wanted to rewrite the script a little bit, but they didn't have time for that, so he had to go with Rowdy Piper, which he didn't like him at all. Thought he was a terrible actor, and I guess he didn't even like wrestling, and that's why wrestling isn't in this film at all when you have a wrestler.
That's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
Daniel Stern's talented. I mean, he was on. Yeah, that's crazy. I like it.
He was in Diner, wasn't he?
Daniel Stern was in a lot, but I bet that guy was sitting there
I'm
watching
saying
him
at
in
this
City
time,
Slickers. And
You're trying to compare this is what, just after They Live or at the same time, same year? They
Probably
were
around
Same
the same-
year it
but
came
after
out.
but after Daniel Stern's in Chud,
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
so
yeah.
he's in that same kind of area. But I bet by like early '90s, when you start seeing Daniel Stern in mega hits like City Slickers and Home Alone, these people are kicking themselves in the asses.
Well, I guess one of the problems was too that Daniel Stearns was, like a theater actor also in New York. So they had to like take time to see him. I don't even think they actually brought him in to test him. He just looked at the script and said, "Yeah, I'll come in for it, but we got to change some of this." And they're like, "Nope, don't have time for that."
They should have
This
done
is
it.
a masterpiece, and we are not.
You should have done it. should've done
Yeah.
it.
Screenplay by Donald G. Jackson, same guy who directed it, and Randall Frakes. Couldn't find anything on Frakes, so no stories there. Distributed by New World Pictures. That's Mr. Roger Corman's pictures there.
Rest in peace.
God, I love
Rest in
him so
peace.
much.
I met him several times, and he was always the nicest effing guy. One of my first gigs was writing a outline for a movie that was never made around the time Snakes on the Plane was coming out, and it was like, but what about rats? And so I wrote a outline for a Rats on a Plane movie, and I called it Red Eye. No relation to the Red Eye movie that later was made as a horror film with
Ooh.
Cillian Murphy about a plane.
It's a clever title.
Yeah, for a plane disaster-ish, scary movie. Yeah, Red
I
Eye.
thought it was going to be Rats on a Raft.
Nah, the rats on
That
a
would have been
plane.
good. Rats on
Rats
a
on a
raft.
plane.
Well, like the plane crashes, you get off on the floating dinghy raft.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
it's just full of rats
Yeah.
now, and you're like, ah!
It was fun. It was fun. Roger Corman was like always the nicest dude.
Yeah,
seems
I mean,
like it.
every time you see him in old like interviews, he's the most proper man too. He'll be talking about just like a ruthless movie, and he's like, "Well, we had to have them then rip out the eyeballs. That's what someone would do in that situation." And you'd be like, "What?" And then this is released in the January dumping month. Oh, it's never a good thing when you see this when someone comes out in January, but 1988 is when it came out. And then we had a budget of 1.5 million. I'm doing that with air quotes because I don't believe that. And Rotten Tomato score of, guess what? 60% from 10 actual professional writers here. I could not believe that. I thought this thing would be around the 30s, but then we get the popcorn meter, the audience score, and it's 47. And I'm like, what is going on?
I
Yeah,
think the
that's
film
backwards,
nerd critics,
I
the
think.
film nerd critics are giving it a little bit of
Yeah.
extra.
Yeah.
They're like, I get a little edginess for putting this one over. This film
Oh.
critic doesn't think this movie's very good, but it has some scenes that I think are amazing and
This
a
film
katana
critic
fight at the end. So
a
I
trap.
dig that.
And then here's the funniest review I found on this. I love this. Terrible cringe, but cool looking movie starring Rowdy Piper. Any movie with a wrestler to me is automatically interesting. Good try, Piper, but They Live is better. Like, wait, it's totally cringe, but also you like it?
Yes,
I
They
don't-
Live is better. Most
think
movies, They Live is going to be better.
I
Yeah.
think they review all these movies wasted. When they're
Probably.
typing this shit, that's when they get to go, you know what? I think I'm going to review a film.
Yeah.
And then
just hop and
it
pull.
doesn't make sense.
And what kind of
Yeah.
I could be like, yeah, I watched Oppenheimer. Guess what? They Live is better.
Yeah, I wouldn't even watch Oppenheimer because
I
I don't want to
haven't.
get disappointed with
haven't.
how
I
much
haven't.
better They Live
Chris,
is. So
I haven't. I have not seen Oppenheimer. I just
I
don't
chose Barbie over Oppenheimer, and I'm not upset about that.
I was like, let me watch Sonic 3 again.
Honestly, I don't know if I'm going to watch movies anymore because They Live could be better than anything.
They Live is pretty damn good, man.
So,
It's
those are
pretty rough.
real tunnel systems under the LA courthouses. I mean, those are real tunnel systems throughout downtown Los Angeles that they had during the 20s to transport criminals underground through the tunnels. But then it, spawned off into like all the speakeasy stuff. A lot of that stuff's still around, but the tunnels themselves that you see at the end of They Live are like those are designed almost identical to the tunnels that are under the Hall of Records in downtown LA, and it's all shut off to the public. But I snuck down there one time, and it's pretty crazy. It's pretty nuts, They Live was so ahead of its time, and putting Piper in that lead and letting him improvise, come up with most of those lines are his,
Even the bubblegum line?
Yeah, the bubblegum line, that's like putting perfume on a pig. Like every tag, every catchphrase, little line, one-liner that he had, it was pretty much his. Because him and John Carpenter, I think, met at like WrestleMania 3, or it was after WrestleMania 3 or something, but Carpenter's a huge wrestling fan, so kind of just gave him the green light to speak as he would. But he presented him all these lines. He was like, I love all these. And the bubblegum line obviously stands out, but
that's what you're doing on our comic.
Yeah,
you're giving us some badass lines.
Yeah, I mean,
great.
Nobody wants. Yeah, it's how do we make this more authentic? I guess where it's like I would never say that. Okay, I can say that. Can I say this? No, it's
I love it.
A really interesting story about They Live that I don't hear much because I listened to a Rowdy Piper interview on this movie and They Live. It was about 20 minutes. He had some great stories in it, but I had no idea that John Carpenter's wife at the time, I'm forgetting her name, but she and Piper did not get along because she thought he was unprofessional. Didn't stick to the script.
It wasn't Sandy.
I don't think it. I think it was his wife before her, wasn't it? Didn't he? Because I think she worked on The Fog. Like maybe she was a producer.
But Sandy and I are friends, and I'll ask Sandy because
let me see.
Sandy's been on Geekscape a few times, and I see Sandy about once a year or twice a year, and she's very candid about answering those questions.
Yeah, that's because I'll send you the interview if it is.
Cool.
I'm trying to look up.
She's great. Like I told her that I was like, yeah, but I think it's on Geekscape, but one of the conversations. But I was like, yeah, when I first moved to LA, I was driving around Peter Bogdanovich. She goes, that son of a bitch. Like she just started laying into him, and I was like, yeah, I didn't say it was the best job.
Oh, you know what? So it looks like they divorced in '84.
Mhm.
So it was not, and maybe it was Sandy King. Does anyone know?
Yeah, that's Sandy.
Oh, Sandy. Okay.
That's King Comics. Like Sandy's amazing, and she will be very candid about people. I can see Sandy not liking somebody. She's awesome.
Yeah, let me send you afterwards. I'll send you the link to this interview so you can hear it. But he does not mention a name.
Dude, I love Sandy.
So I don't know if he says spouse or if he says like girlfriend or something. But yeah, you'll pick it up. I was like,
Dude.
oh, that's interesting.
Yo, Sandy is one of the coolest, candid, doesn't hold back people I've ever had on the podcast. And I love going to conventions because she's usually there doing her King Comics. It's Storm King, her Storm King comics line. And I just pick her brain for a long time. She's always really, really generous about that stuff.
Yeah, because it looks like they got married in 1990. So I wonder who it was. Anyway.
No, she produced all those movies. Like Sandy tells me stories from Halloween. I had film students who were saying, yeah, Halloween was the first use of a Steadicam. And I said, I don't think there was a Steadicam quite yet, because you always think about Alien and aliens on Steadicam. And I wrote her and I said, Sandy, my students are asking if what you guys use on Halloween. And she goes, close. It was a early Vericam that we used. And she sent me and I was like, dude, she got back to me in 2 minutes. She's the nicest lady.
Wow.
Awesome. That's going to be real interesting because, this is just one side of the story. And you also caught me when I was reading. So when I was like, Sandy King, I didn't even listen to you.
That's her. That's Sandy. Sandy King.
Reading is hard.
Well, also looking up on something, scanning really quick.
Yeah. But she didn't like Roddy. I'm sure he's hard to work with.
That's what he said.
That's awesome. Cool.
Well, keep in mind, this is the late 80s too, when cocaine was pretty rampant. Steroids were the thing, like in the locker room.
Well, and I think he said he was really rough with the stuntmen too, and I think that was also a problem.
Like Van Damme?
Yeah, I mean, back then, like those days of pro wrestling, I mean, especially they were all gladiators, so those guys were just larger than life. When you see him take his shirt off as a construction worker guy and They Live, I mean, he's like triple the size of everybody else, front and side. But a lot of those wrestlers from the late 80s, they make they don't shy away from being, telling you how much coke they did and all that stuff. So
yeah, I think
I'm not saying Sandy's off the hook, but I am saying, Roddy was certainly no angel, I'm sure. But from the guy that I knew, he was, how could you not love him? I mean, there was somewhere that he definitely got right with himself, I think.
Yeah, in this interview, it was amazing how truthful, and you could just tell he was just like, I'm being honest, I just wasn't always a good guy. And I was like, man, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So it's a fascinating interview, and I think it's for UK too. So he's being a little bit more honest because he's like, well, this is for my UK fans.
Yeah.
No one's gonna see this.
It's probably maybe what he thought. Anyway, let's watch the trailer on this, and I want you guys to. I think this is a very unique trailer, but I don't know if this is the best way to go about delivering this movie. But I'll let you guys be the judge. Here we go.
Reflect for a moment on the art of cinema. Think of a motion picture like The Last Emperor and the 9 Academy Awards it so richly deserved. Consider the profound emotional experience of a truly great film. Then forget it, sweetheart.
Yes, better blow it out your exhaust pipe, cinema lover, because here comes fun with hair on it.
Oh, that's disgusting.
You're gonna see the biggest piece of shattering entertainment that ever molested your sensibilities.
That sounds great.
Want a plot? Here it is. It's the end of the 20th century, and mankind has blown its wad. The fate of humanity rests in the groin of one man.
Their leader, Commander Toady, has kidnapped some pilgrims who wandered into their territory. We're gonna get him out, and then you're gonna get him pregnant.
Yes, if you want a brilliant film, you can go right to
We're going to Frogtown.
Hell Comes to Frogtown. Starring wrestling superstar Rowdy Roddy Piper. Move over, Mr. Mel Gibson and Mr. Robert De Niro. Here comes acting talent and sensitivity like you've never seen.
You are one weird dude.
And speaking of talent, turn green, Ms. Meryl Streep. Here's Sandal Bergman, the exquisite star of Red Sonja and Conan the Barbarian. Hell Comes to Frogtown, a story of mutant sex and people like you and me. It's hot, it's wet,
And it's bad.
it's Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Dude, I'd fucking rent that in a heartbeat.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, with
I
that
did.
trailer.
That is accurate. That's a very accurate trailer. I love it.
Yeah, I when I read it, when I watched it, I was like, this feels like it's made so much for like just stoners sitting on their couch being like, yeah, this is great. And I was like, I wonder if I wonder if it's shot right over like normies' heads. They just watched it and they're like, that looks goofy. I'm not watching that.
Yeah, I think you got to be huffing some glue or something on your couch in the basement to want to see.
I had
this.
no excuse. I just want to see some cool shit. And
I mean,
half of the
you
movie
got
is
it.
cool shit. Yeah. I don't like how the character just keeps getting duped at the end though. The main character, like he throws a sword into a guy, which is awesome. That was a funny sequence. And then the guy runs off with a bazooka, and then he finds the guy's body, and the dude is laying on the bazooka, and he kicks him a few times to check if he's dead, and then he just walks away.
Always shoot him. You always shoot them.
You always got to shoot him in the head. And I was like,
Yeah.
Roddy, why are you falling for this? Again, multiple times, the dead act where he's like, took care of it, and starts walking away. No, bro. Double tap.
But there
Double
is
tap.
no way that a sword through your abdomen wouldn't kill you, especially pulling it back out.
I don't know what the radiological fallout has done.
Any of the main organs or not?
All right, yeah, we can try it. There's a few of us on here. We can attempt it a few times, see who survives, who doesn't.
Anybody
Like
want
a sword swallower, but from the outside in.
I don't think you guys understand that like all the blood is in his groin with this legendary cock that he's walking around with. So he doesn't have time. He doesn't have time to do this.
Speaking of the sword in the guy's body and the guy like running off with a sword in him and then later faking that his death. Did you see that blood? The blood that Roddy's following is like hot pink.
Mhm.
Like it's like the worst on-screen blood. It's like
just
this hot
paint.
pink blue. Yeah, hot pink glue. Yeah, it was terrible. And I was like, yeah, pretty easy to find. You can probably find them at night with that hot pink blood.
You
just
gotta
sitting
love
there.
the Corman signature explosions right around the vehicle, but it's just like the little explosion and the vehicle kind of.
And then they stop every
Paul,
time.
He takes care of
Keep driving, man. Keep driving.
At the end of the movie, he takes care of the white dude. Then he battles the frog on top of the Vasquez rocks. So it's like Kirk fighting the Gorn in Star Trek, and that was fine. He then gets back to the truck that all these women were supposed to be like hiding in, and it's kind of destroyed. And again, he gets duped. Roddy shows up, and there's supposed to be a dramatic scene where he sees the remains of this truck, which really is just a truck that's been taken apart and like is littered. None of it looks scorched, none of it looks destroyed at all. And you see him like sad, and he's like, and then you hear the women go, "Hey, we're alive!" And they come running from around a rock. It's like, dude, how many times are you gonna fall for this, Roddy? Like, dude, use your eyes. He's such a dupe in this movie.
Yeah, he is.
All the
He's
blood
like,
was down below.
yeah, see, he knows what I'm talking about.
couldn't
What I think I find really interesting in this is like, so he busts onto the scene of just like this legendary guy who's left like a trail of pregnant women behind, and then he gets like, he's like, yeah, your dick's government property. Now you got to get everyone pregnant. And he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What am I, a piece of meat?
Hey, quit using me like that. Every angle that she's like, you need to do your civic duty. He's like, I can't just turn it on like that, lady.
I gotta find her interesting. Maybe know her name.
She has to be somebody's daughter, like the beginning. Maybe he's just a rapey dude in this movie. Like, that's the only evidence before beating him. That's the only evidence we had that he got somebody who's pregnant. Was like, he was accused of some, he has charges pressed against him. So I don't know. I like the seduction scene where he's like, I'm not into this. And she's like, okay, I've studied the art of seduction. And she does this like dance sequence.
Goofy ass dance.
I was in. I'm in. I'm in.
Well, yeah, and then like the other lady,
That
what
they
was her name?
rescued?
Like Cinetella, whatever her character's name was, and everything. She's sitting there watching, like stroking her gun, like shining it, and I'm like, what is going on here? Then she tries to bang Rowdy Piper, and then Spangle comes out, and she's like, hey, you get off her, okay?
Hands off the merchandise. He's government issue.
You're out of uniform, Corporal.
Yeah, that penis is our property.
I know, but luckily he has a flap.
We have that line in Here of the Prophecy. Not the penis line, but hands off the merchandise.
Hands off the merchandise. Hands off the merchandise.
I mean, also Spangle's an interesting character throughout, because when we actually go to Frogtown and we find out that they're basically using him not only to get everyone pregnant, but he also has to be part of this rescue mission, which I was like, all right, that's a little, must have been like small print right there.
That's risky. You're one virile man. You're just like, come on in. Please don't die. Okay, we need you.
Yeah, and then she gets up there and we find out they're like, hey, you got to survive the 3 snakes. And I'm like, the 3 snakes? I wonder what this is going to be, because I thought it was going to be some giant serpent that comes out of a pit. And
not for 1.5 million of cocaine.
No, it's his dick.
It's 3 dicks apparently. And then what I realized is they get her all juiced up, by like, I don't know, waving these scarves or whatever, silk scarves over her. And then I realized, wait, all these women have already had sex with this like Captain whatever his name is. I don't know what he was. I remember the one with the eye patch is named Bull, and I don't remember any of the other frogs' names. But,
Frogtown may be the least interesting part of this entire movie about Frogtown.
But all these women, do all these women have like baby frogs in their tummy? What's going on here?
I don't know.
Tadpole.
So I think you can't cross species breed, but you can try.
Well, I mean,
the
lady frog in here did her best.
Is gonna try.
I wonder if that would have been
addressed. College try.
I wonder if that would have been addressed in the Daniel Stern version.
Maybe. I mean, he would have wrote it in there.
When are we getting the Hell Comes Frogtown remake?
Well, they did do a
grittier
sequel.
Reboot.
Wait, what? Steven?
Yes, there's a sequel. The same director. Now, I was going to say this for the end, but we're going to get right into this because I think this director is insanely fascinating because he's done a lot of movies. Like I own one of them, Rollerblade, but he's got a reptile amphibian fetish. Listen to these movies that he's actually directed here. He's done Hell Comes to Frogtown, Max Hell, Frog Warrior. That's the sequel. We have Toad Warrior and what I think sounds really good, Roller Gator.
Roller Gator.
That sounds tight.
Roller Gator something.
When are we getting that?
I don't know. But I'm just sitting here looking at his films. I'm like, wait, Frog Warrior, Toad Warrior, Roller Gator?
Did he do Prayer of the Roller Boys?
I don't know. Who knows?
I'm looking at his MDB right now.
He did Rollerblade Steve.
He did produce Yin Yang Insane in 2007. He's still active. This guy did Ghost of El Chupacabra in 2019. He's dead. I think he's dead. Yeah, he died in 2003. But his stuff keeps coming out.
But there's the Sheik wreaks havoc through the sleaziest locales of the American wrestling circuit. See, I can't read very well.
Hey guys, this guy died in 2003, Donald G. Jackson, and He died in 2003. The last movie he was alive that came out was Rock and Roll Cops 2: The Adventure Begins, which is funny because you'd think Rock and Roll Cops 1 was where the adventure began, but no, they held the adventure beginning for the second one. But since his death, he did Vampire Boulevard, Legend of the Dead Boys, Superhero Central, Interview, One Shot Sam, Yin Yang Insane, Witch's Brew, Naked Adventure, Crimes of Tomorrow, El Chupacabra, La Entrevista Perdido, Hawk Warrior, The Wheel Zone, Rock and Roll Cops Light,
Jesus.
Max Hell, Frog Warrior, A Zen Rough Cut, and Ghost of El Chupacabra. The dude was almost as prolific in death as he was in life.
Did you say the Zen cut?
Yeah, the Zen
Like,
cut. Max Hell, Frog Warrior,
Zen
Rough
Cut.
Cut. This is it's described as this is a visual experience for the true aficionado of Zen filmmaking and Max Hell, Frog Warrior.
The
And
sequel.
the top cast is Scott Shaw as Max Hell. That's not Roddy Piper. Joe Estevez, who, yes, is an Estevez. He looks like Emilio Estevez, looks like Charlie Sheen, and Mick O'Malley. This, what the hell? I don't even know what this is. It looks tight as hell.
I think this is sometimes why we don't do research that heavy, because boy, we could talk about this guy all day.
The research for
Now
it.
he made this film, or he made this cut as a zombie, is what you're
Guys,
saying.
no, he. Oh my God, he did it with a guy named. He did it with a guy named Scott Shaw, who is also the guy playing Max Hell in the Zen cut. And it says, born in the filmmaking capital of the world, Hollywood, California, Scott Shaw spent the early part of his youth growing up in South Los Angeles. He then returned to Hollywood for his teen years. It's the same city, dude, okay? Same city. But the movies that guy's responsible for is The Rollerblade 7, Guns of El Chupacabra, Samurai Vampire Bikers from Hell,
That's
and Max Hell, Frog Warrior. And if you guys go to this guy's IMDb, it's just him with a sword kicking people with a long ponytail. Like, this guy does not F around.
Yeah, Scott Shaw.
Yo, this guy is real. He's here to kick some ass and swipe some blades and hang out with
How
babes.
do you compare to Adrian Paul?
Adrian Paul wins. Adrian Paul wins. My friend Keith used to live near Adrian Paul, and he would just say, like, Adrian Paul just hangs out, like, washing his car in the driveway.
I'm kind of zoned out, man. I'm checking out all this guy's films. The Roller Blade 7 looks pretty rad.
I'm telling you, man.
You should do Roller Boys. Prayer
This
of the
guy-
Roller Boys.
I own Roller Boys. That movie looks.
I
I
love
remember
that movie.
watching it, but
never
I
seen
don't. I
Corey
think
Haim.
yeah, I'm only 40, so some of these movies that I love now that came out in the 80s, like I just wasn't old enough to watch then. So if I
Prayer
didn't
of the
see
Roller
them,
Boys might be the most underrated Corey Haim film ever.
yeah, I bought it when we went to Indianapolis because I was like, all right, that looks sick.
There's a scene where they're in the parking garage and they introduce the Roller Boys or whatever, and they come in and they're like, I mean, it's reminiscent
There's
of
smoke behind
war
him.
games. And then the main guy comes in up to Corey Haim, and as he rolls up to him, he does a little pirouette and turns and like looks at him. And I'm just like, oh, that's a heel. That guy's badass.
All I gotta say
I
is, if
bought
you
a
guys are
long white trench coat just because of that movie.
Good
If
thing
you
it was
guys-
black.
if you guys are fans of the post-apocalyptic 80s films, you're going to want to donate to Hear the Prophecy at heartheprophecy.com, because the story continues after the fantasy chapter. That's all I'm going to say. But we do celebrate more 80s genres as
Hell
the
yeah.
series continues. Yeah, I'm a big fan of those post-apocalyptic movies like Cherry 2000 and Prayer for the Roller Boys and that
Bronx
stuff.
War.
And Bronx War, Texas Gladiators 2020, just trash cinema that we love.
Mhm.
And maybe Paul finds himself into one of those adventures after his fantasy one. We'll see. Who
So what you're
knows?
saying is, when the Kickstarter opens up, I believe on February, what is it?
Fourth,
Fourth?
yeah.
Yeah, when that opens up, help them kickstart it, and then we're going to see more of these wacky adventures and maybe a little post-apocalyptic, is what you're saying.
I just
Oh,
want to throw
wanna-
Paul. Yeah, we're gonna go cosmic. We're gonna do all sorts of stuff. But if you like these 80s genres, I'm just gonna throw my brother in as many as I can.
Sounds tight.
I will
Yeah,
have a
and-
copy.
Now, are you going to amp up the torturing of him, or is this all going to be, like he gets better? Because
No,
if it was my brother, I would torture the hell out of him in
No,
every
he-
episode.
He doesn't
not
win
calling
every
for
fight.
poop?
He doesn't win every fight. He doesn't win every fight.
I'm just
Uh,
I do.
What's the Roddy scene where he's got his nuts tapped up to something and they're like torturing him? Explain that torture scene.
The chainsaw to the codpiece. The frog
you're
comes
a
in with a
weird dude.
chainsaw. The chainsaw tries the frog tries to get the codpiece off of him and uses a chainsaw, but it'll explode if you tamper with it. And Roddy's like, and he finally gets it off, and the frog is like, "Ha ha ha! Now it can kill you. You don't have this thing on you." And Roddy's like, "Not so fast!" And the thing explodes and kills the frog.
I was duped.
That's the end.
It's like, dude, no. The end is him fighting a frog at the top of Vasquez Rocks. And the frog
Kicking him
hangs
in the
onto his
nards.
leg like over and over again. There's 2 sequences where Roddy's like trying to get that sword and it's just out of his reach. And he gets the sword at the last minute and then uses it in the worst way ever. There's some weird repeat beats in the end of this movie, but I'm not going to complain about dude fighting a rubber frog. He throws the sword at one guy, another one. He does everything but slice the guy's head.
Yeah,
he just sliced his hand off though.
He slices his hand and then causes the guy to fall. But I'm like,
Do we want to talk more about your comic? We are an hour in already. Apparently, we like talking today.
If you're not convinced to read this comic after this conversation,
good.
It's not for you,
dude. I do want to say that the art is rad.
Thanks, man.
No, and Chris actually brought up what it looks like because I was trying to feel. I was like, what the feeling of this drawing and everything? What is this? And then Chris is like, it's kind of heavy metal-ish.
Yeah,
with some of the drawing. Yeah.
God, I'd love that. Heavy metal is like our favorite. Heavy metal in 2000 AD.
Yeah,
with a splash of ElfQuest. Those are the 80s influences.
When we didn't have access to porn, man.
Yo, Heavy Metal magazine in Heavy Metal movie. Like, how influential was that stuff? Incredible.
Yeah, and I'm getting a little bit of the owl from Secret of Nim in there too with the
I love Ralph Bakshi and all that stuff.
And again, He-Man 2, the movie, not the comic or the cartoon, the far superior movie.
The Masters of the Universe is what you mean.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
We
couldn't remember. We were talking before you got here, and I'm like, what the fuck is the name?
Yeah, so Masters of the Universe, like the cosmic key in that, in the artifact in ours, like they're basically the same thing. But I'll tell you, you guys know the origin of the Masters of the Universe movie, right? Like why it's not on Eternia and not really a He-Man movie.
No, do tell.
Well, I mean, they didn't have any money, and
it's not about the money.
No,
and guys, it was going to get a sequel because Cyborg is the script for a sequel of Masters of the Universe. But guys, that's not a Masters of the Universe script. It's a Jack Kirby Fourth World script. Jack Kirby, when he left Marvel and went to DC, he created his own universe, the most famous of which is like the New Gods and like the Fourth World. Darkseid is the big villain in JLA and all that stuff. He's the big bad guy in the New Gods, and Orion is his son. And Orion's like rebelling against it. And there's Big Barda. There's the New Gods is like a really cool thing. And Ava DuVernay almost made a New Gods movie under the last like DC regime at Warner Brothers. They almost did one. But he had a New Gods Fourth World script in Hollywood forever. And when He-Man became popular, they took that script and they turned it into Masters of the Universe. So that cosmic key is a boom tube from the DC universe. He-Man is basically playing Orion, and Skeletor is Darkseid from DC. Like it's a DC movie that got turned into a He-Man movie.
I love Masters of the Universe.
They just reskinned it.
Rad.
I do too, but that's why it takes place on Earth, because it's supposed to be a boom tube.
I was always confused. It makes no sense, but I was very happy to watch it as a kid.
Yeah, that's a Jack Kirby Fourth World movie.
Oh, no way.
In the same way that Van Damme Street Fighter is a G.I. Joe script that they completely reskinned as a Street Fighter movie because G.I. Joe wasn't selling toys anymore, but everybody was pumping quarters into Street Fighter. That was a G.I. Joe script that existed forever, and they turned it into Van Damme's. They took Duke and just made it into like
that film is brought to you by cocaine, though.
Yeah,
I love it.
I saw my brother the story on that film. Capcom, it was their call to cast Jean-Claude. That was against Steven DeSouza's wishes because he did like Die Hard and Commando
Cyborg.
And wrote I think it was Steven DeSouza, wasn't it? He did Street Fighter. It was the last movie he did, I think. But it talks about how Capcom they were like, the one person we want for the American hero Guile is Jean-Claude Van Damme.
The Belgian. The one American we want is the Belgian. Let's do that.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like an out of touch producer's thing to do. I mean, 100%. I could see that. Like just someone coming down, and you're like, we got to have Jean-Claude for the Ultimate
If you think
American.
of the
We must
time,
have this.
92, whatever, he was peaking. I mean, I think he peaked with Time Cop.
93.
Box office wise,
Mhm.
that was, I think, his highest grossing, but this is before that because Street Fighter was what, 93? No,
94.
95. No, 94.
94
Okay,
and
I think
95.
Yeah,
So
it was right
Time
after
Cop was
yeah,
Adam.
this is
93.
right there. This is right when he's peaking. Yeah, so I can see where Capcom's coming from. They're like, we want Jean-Claude. Yeah.
Well, he might have peaked with Time Cop. In my house, he peaked with Bloodsport because we watched
Ah.
that just about once a week.
Bloodsport's
Just-
incredible, but he
I
had
can't
many
dis-
great films afterwards.
I can't decide between Cyborg or Time Cop, but both
What
of
for
them
his
are.
best? It's definitely
Yeah, superb.
Lionheart. Lionheart's definitely his best film. Acting
Chris.
wise, story wise, that's definitely
We're
his best
just
picture.
this is not a
Lionheart.
Universal Soldier podcast, I guess. Like you guys.
Oh,
are
we
just
already
gonna
covered that.
I know, but like, come on, guys, that movie's incredible.
It
They're not
is.
cyborgs.
I had Dean Devlin on Geekscape, and I just kept asking stories like about Universal Soldier. Like that's all I wanted to talk to him about. That and Godzilla. Like, dude, what was up with the Godzilla? And he was very candid with me. Dean Devlin was very nice. He gave me plenty of time of stories about Universal Soldier and Godzilla.
But
And my
going
buddy
back
James.
to sorry.
But no, I was gonna say, remember my buddy James Liu, Paul? James Liu's the guy who's fighting with a knife when he jumps up on the counter and does the splits in Time
Gets
Cop.
electrocuted.
And James Liu gets electrocuted.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm
Well-
holding the double team here. Dennis Rodman's excellent acting ability.
But they had to
That's
fight
the movie where Jean-Claude apparently was doing like coke all day, went to his trailer, put the gun in his mouth, like couldn't pull
I
the
thought
trigger.
it was the movie with Rob Schneider, the Choi Hawk movie that he was that story is
Knockoff.
from. Knockoff. I thought
Yeah,
that was
no, I
the
think-
lowest of the low for him, he said.
I mean,
Well,
it
this
is Rob
one,
Schneider.
Double Team has Mickey Rourke at the end.
Yep. Oh, so he would have had access to
It's
drugs, is what you're
part
saying.
of his comeback, I think. He was still trying to rehabilitate himself then. Because I think it was Stallone that brought him kind of back out after he got fucked up boxing. But
And he was in Expendables with Stallone. You know my
Yeah,
Wesley
that's the only
Snipes.
reason
I
he
told you
did
that
it.
Wesley Snipes story about Expendables 3. My run club went through, like, we were just running through the city and we stopped at like this bar after the run and we're all sweaty and stuff like that. And we go into this place and Wesley Snipes is in there with his entourage. And people are like, Wesley Snipes over there. And I was like, I'll talk to him. Let's invite him to run with us or something. And Wesley Snipes was like, what's all this? And I was like, oh, it's our run group. You should come join us sometimes. He goes, yeah, man, I don't do that, man. It's a long time ago. And I said, Wesley, I just saw you in Expendables 3. You're totally fit. You could totally do this. And he goes, the only thing I was running in that movie for was a paycheck. That was my conversation with Wesley Snipes.
It's a good one.
oh my god,
Paycheck.
It's a
Well, you know,
good,
it's funny
a
when
good
you
reason
think
to
of-
run.
when you think of our owl character Finnegan, you know, there's lots of things you could draw to. Like, is he like Gwildor? Is he like, you know,
It's the Mystic. It's the Mystics from
Yeah,
Dark
you're like the
Crystal.
Mystic.
Mhm.
There's actually a deleted character in the Master Universe film that now that I think about it, he's kind of more like, and that would be Pig Boy.
Oh yeah, Pig Boy.
Yeah, the Pig Boy character that got cut from the Master Universe film. Did y'all not know about that?
No.
I've seen a
Mark-
picture.
Chris is
Mattel-
done. He's like, fuck this.
Yeah, Mattel put out a contest.
It's too
Oh,
much.
I've seen pictures of that. Holy crap. Yeah, I wish
Uh-huh.
that was in there.
Mattel put out a
Oh,
contest.
it's so tiny.
And it was a little boy. It was a boy. It was for children, and children would win. You would win a role on the Master Universe movie. I can't remember the kid's name. No, it
There's
gets
a-
worse.
There's a YouTube documentary about it called The Story of Pig Boy.
There it is. But also, unfortunately, and I hate to dash Master Universe for you, but there's a reason we don't hear about Gary Goddard anymore.
No,
He was a
everybody
part of
knows
it.
that reason.
He
It's
was a
dark as
part-
hell.
yeah, he was a part of those Bryan Singer pool parties. You know what I mean? So So it
I
makes
think
you
that's
wonder.
really well known.
There were no children in Master Universe except Pig Boy. You know what I mean? If you look at it, there's no really. I mean, maybe at the very beginning when they're on Eternia or something, but I don't think there's any other kids on that set that I can think of except Pig Boy, and he didn't even make the final cut.
We're not saying there's a Victor Salva on that set, but
I'm not.
like
I'm not.
But yeah, he definitely got himself in some trouble, dude.
Yeah, Gary
Definitely.
Goddard, bad one.
You wanted to end the podcast on a light note, Stephen. Just that
Yeah.
was our
So
gift to you.
yeah, that's a nice.
Oh my
That was
god!
our
Here we
gift
go.
to you
All right,
was-
get off this, Chris. Get off this. Go down that Alice in
to the-
Wonderland hole.
Listen to
later.
the Geekscape podcast, everybody. We got great stories like these.
Oh,
that we share. Everybody likes these great stories.
This is why I don't learn about
Oh.
movies. I watch the goddamn movie, and that is it. I don't
That's
learn
it. No,
who
I don't
directed
care.
it,
I
who
will watch
produced
it
it.
always. I love it.
I'm
I
like, I
love
don't want to know
Master
that people
Universe.
sucked, and I
Hey,
watch
hey,
you know what
VHS.
The best line in
Everything
Master
is.
Universe. No, I'll just say this real quick because people need to hear this. There's like the best scene in Master Universe, in my opinion, is when they're trying to get Kevin to work on the cosmic key, and Gwildor's like, he's like, songs? You're a song maker? He's like, make the songs. He's like, sorry. He's like, sorry, Gwildor, you got the wrong song maker. There's a million of me. He's like, only one of you, Kevin. Only one of everybody. And it's like, that's such a, I tear up every time I hear that, like in that movie, because it's only one of you, only one of anybody, and it's just like, that's the heart of that movie, is that one line. And Pig Boy wrote it.
Not only was it touching and you like lifted the spirits of everyone, but you got a joke off with it too. So good job. All right. So we'll do the last two things on the show. Do you I mean, I think this is a yes from everyone, but I might be wrong. Do we recommend Hell Comes to Frogtown?
Yeah,
No.
very
Yeah.
much.
There you go.
I knew
100%.
Jonathan didn't. I knew he
Nope.
hated
Yeah.
it.
Nope. Fairy Toad does not get fast forward to it. It's got some cool shit.
Are you kidding me? This movie has a sign that says no condoms allowed. All right. This thing is just amazing.
It's like the ultimate frat house movie.
It's irresponsible. No, that a frat house would be no nose allowed. You can't say no.
Oh, I thought you said nose, and I was like,
pretty
they
dark
choose
again.
for something.
It's pretty dark
Sorry,
again, Jonathan.
They have to do the elephant walk somehow.
Yeah.
It's pretty dark.
Hey, it's not irresponsible in this movie. We need to win the Cold War by having more babies than some, I guess, we're
But I'm
fighting
gonna
Russia.
own the only nuke. I'm gonna get these women back.
Where do you rank this with the other Roddy Piper movie you just recently watched, John?
Oh fuck!
With Billy Blanks.
That one was terrible. This one's
Oh
terrible.
yeah, that's from the 90s, right?
James Liu's in the other one though.
With Billy Blanks?
James Liu's in that one. Yeah.
Was it Tough and Deadly?
Yeah. Silent but Deadly. This is better than Silent but Deadly.
It was like Tough and Deadly, I think.
Yeah, I just call it Silent but Deadly because it stinks like a fart.
Oh man, I really wish. How many movies was Rowdy actually in?
Oh, I'm still scrolling.
Yeah,
He was in a
when
few
I went
with
to his
Billy Blanks.
Yeah,
with Billy Blanks. I think he did at least
So many
3.
things he's in.
yeah, but see, most of them are wrestling, so that's why I stopped. I was like, well, I can't write a list out of this.
There's a failed pilot he did with Jesse Ventura. Was it Tag Team? It was like a buddy cop series they tried to put out, and the pilot was out there. And I just recently saw this one scene where they're like in the grocery store, like shopping or something, and they beat up these criminals. And I'm like, wait, that criminal's Magic Schwartz, who you would recognize as the fighter in the racquetball court in Lionheart, and then he was also Smasher in Over the Top. I tend to always identify these stunt fighter actors because you see them throughout a lot of these films that we love.
That's a lot of your profession too.
Yeah, a lot of these guys, you see a lot of them pop up here, and I have friends that I see in Daredevil, the Ben Affleck Daredevil. They're the bodyguards for Kingpin. Both those bodyguards, yeah, they're old wrestling buddies, and I'm like, oh, that's That's awesome. So it's funny to see guys pop up here and there, but yeah, I don't know where the fuck I was going with that.
All right. The last thing we do, we are called Analog Jones of the Temple Film. So we're going to put something in our museum, just like Indy would. So I'll let Chris start because, let the guests get kind of like the premise of this. Good or bad? What are you putting in the museum, Chris?
I'm going to put the scene that Jonathan was talking about, the frog, the car chase with the cannons. Jonathan, what'd you call it? My brain's bad.
Fury Toad.
Yeah, Fury Toad. I like that. Every time that explodes, they like just stop the car and sit there for a sec.
Yeah, it's comedic. It's like a wacky races in a Barbera.
Keep driving.
Yeah.
All right, John, what do you got?
Oh, anything with a katana sword has me immediately going into a you got to put that in the museum.
So where the hell did he get that katana sword?
Nobody
Did
cares.
it just appear?
Who cares?
All right, he found it in Frogtown.
With this movie, who cares?
Bartertown, I mean. Frogtown.
But I do like that he's like, there's a scene where the woman's behind him, and the pacifist, and he's like, he has his hand very obviously behind him, reaching back, and he's like, "Give me the sword!" And the guy's like pointing a bazooka right at him, and he's trying to get away with it, be like, "Give me the sword!" And I'm like, this isn't, you're not fooling anybody here, pal. The guy keeps droning on like we do, so he just grabs the katana, throws it into his chest.
He goes, "Good thing you're long-winded."
Good thing you're long-winded is the tagline. Yeah, it's good. It's fun.
Yeah.
Put that in the museum.
Paul, what do you got?
I would put Hot Rod, Roddy Piper in the museum in himself. He should be encapsulated in like some sort of chamber that keeps him
Hall of Fame
preserved.
Like
yeah,
David Duchovny's hand in Zoolander.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much, yes, until he has to break it free, and although we wouldn't break Roddy free. One of the greatest people I ever met who helped me tremendously. And the thing about Roddy is I spent first time we ever really hung out, oddly enough, was in a sauna in Helsinki, Finland. And he just gave me all this advice. And I thought, man, that must have just been like sauna talk. And then like a year later, I saw him do an interview in a magazine, and he referenced that very time, talking with me, giving me advice, and just being a fan of my, where I was going. And then I got to work with him later on, right up until he passed away. We were working on a project together, a wrestling project. And then the project just ended because he wasn't around anymore. So the one thing I always loved about him and remembered was this one time in Toronto, and this will be the last thing I say, is we were in Toronto, and it was after the show, and we were in catering in this catering room, and I was the only one in there because I would get away from all the wrestlers and stuff. They're a bunch of so you want to get away from these people. So I was in there, and Roddy comes in, and he sits at the table. He's like, "Hey, how you doing?" He's like, he'd always rub your shoulder, like, give you like a chop or something. He's like, "You know what? Whenever you go somewhere, don't ever say goodbye. Don't say goodbye. Just leave. You don't have to say goodbye to anybody. It's more mystique." And I thought, well, yeah, but it's kind of rude. And he's like, no. Everybody saw you. You let your presence be felt. Just go. Just disappear. And I was like, I know, but that just seems. And he fucking vanished.
Wow.
I'm not even.
Wow.
I looked under the table. Like, he was gone. And it wasn't like we were near a door. Like, he just. Yeah, he was amazing. He was amazing. One of the loveliest people I've ever met in my life. He'd hug you. I love you. Love you. I always say that, So, yeah. I put the cod piece in the museum as well. The cod piece would be good.
Oh yeah, I mean, we just like put him in like some type of styrofoam, and then with Rowdy with a cod piece.
Just a genuinely wonderful person. And if y'all want to know more about Roddy, if you ever look up his Portland wrestling territory days, you'll see just, just Roddy Piper is the best. There'll never be another guy like him, man.
Glad to hear that though. I always really liked him when I
He was
watched him
amazing.
and stuff. It's nice to find out that somebody you liked it wasn't a piece of shit all the time.
He never was. I never saw that. You
Good.
know, of course, I'm not an '80s wrestler, just admiring them. But yeah, he was phenomenal. Just a great person and gave everybody time. Like, yeah, unless he didn't like him.
I mean, that's so much better than my story. I'm not even going to tell it. Like, wow.
He
What would you
he
put in the
had a
museum?
magic to him, and he had a real magic to him.
Yeah, he did.
So
What would you put in the museum, Steven?
Well, I was debating on putting the three snakes in there, when like you see him getting aroused and everything, and her dance to arouse it and everything. But I'm gonna go even deeper. I'm gonna put in the production designer or the makeup, maybe whoever was putting together all the costumes, who put all these accessories on the toads, because I started to notice it. I was like, oh, the first toad I see here, he's got goggles and like a little fez cap.
Mhm.
And then I noticed Bull, he's got an eye
Eye
patch.
patch? Yeah.
And then I see like the leader toad who's got like three snakes bulging out. And then I look at these costumes, I go, someone on this set was working much harder than anyone else.
Just having fun.
It's like I really like seeing the motorcycle helmet one all the time, just hanging out.
Yeah, it's awesome.
This is
where did Battletoads fall in to? Was that 90s?
No, 88 or 9, somewhere in there.
yeah.
Because when you said Bull, I was thinking, I think that was the name of one of the Battletoads. The Battletoads all had like cool
Mhm.
toad name reference.
That
you know,
impossible game that I only beat using an emulator.
Oh,
I've
that's right.
never beaten that.
Mhm.
No, I met a guy who claimed to have beaten it. But he's like, I use the warps, and I'm like, you're still a liar. I don't
I
care.
was like, I feel like I probably eternally got stuck on that sewer level.
I spent a night in college with an emulator doing the thing where you
Pause and read.
pause and save, and then if you die,
Mhm.
you go back to the save. And I got through Battletoads, but it took me most of the night to beat Battletoads using like the pause and save method.
Because I think we beat it, but I think if I remember right, somebody had a Game Genie, so we beat that and like Ninja Gaiden and games we just couldn't beat.
Yeah, Battletoads is impossible.
Yeah. The two games that frustrated me the most as a kid was Ghosts and Goblins I couldn't beat and Battletoads. Just
Seriously.
impossible.
Yeah.
All right. That will end it. This has been an amazing podcast to hear all these stories. I mean, starting with Steven Seagal and ending with Rowdy Piper. It doesn't get much better. And somewhere in the middle, we had a Van Damme story and a Wesley Snipes story. I mean, we're all over the place.
Yeah, Brad's
This
gonna
is
have
great.
to listen to this one.
Yeah. Oh, we
read
never
the
read.
Jean-Claude interview. Read the Jean-Claude interview where he talks about his affair with Kylie Minogue. And he's like, I know it's wrong, but it was so beautiful, simpatico. So beautiful. It was a beautiful lovemaking. It's like, what are you talking about? You were just like having this wild affair, coked out of your gills, ignoring Benny Urquidez, who's probably the greatest martial artist in the world. Simpatico. It was beautiful lovemaking. It's embarrassing.
Fireworks in my pants.
All right. Thank you for coming on. Everyone go out there, look at the Kickstarter for Paul London. Oh my gosh.
It's at hereoftheprophecy.com.
Yes. Thank you for putting out
February 4th.
February 4th. Let's kickstart this. All right, guys. Remember to be kind.
And rewind.
And good journey.
All right.